Baroque music starts at 1600, and all Baroque composers died at 1750.
All of them?
All of them. They all died at one time. It was a horrible Baroque tragedy. All right. So the last time we checked out, we kind of looked at innovations and melodies and stuff. And, the Baroque, we talked about the Baroque orchestra, how it looks like kind of like an orchestra. It's kind of weird. We talked about Monteverdi, how him and his buddies created this thing called opera. And we checked out Orfeo and Eurydice. And we listened to Tu sei morta, which was cool. And then we're going to talk about Bach, because there's nothing more Baroque than Bach. It's easy to remember because they both start with B. Baroque, Bach, Baroque, Bach. And he was born 1685 and died in 1750, because remember, all the Baroque composers died in 1750.
Not all of them died.
No, but Bach died. Actually, that's actually the mark. That's actually the mark of how they say the Baroque ended. They're like, yeah, the Baroque ended in 1750 because Bach died. So,
that's why.
Yeah. So he was German. And he worked most of his life in a church. So we call him the Lutheran master. So it was a Lutheran church, and he was the master of the keyboard. Okay. And he was an organist. And back then, every cathedral, every church in Germany had like a big pipe organ. And Bach.
Pianists.
Right. Yeah, there's one at Poly that has a big old organ.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And what's crazy? You guys ready for this one? Like organs.
Organs are wind pianos.
Yeah, they're like wind pianos, but they last a really long time. And so you can go to Germany right now, and you can go on a organ tour, perhaps an organ trail. Oh man. An organ trail, and you can go and listen to people play on the organs that Bach played on, which blows my mind. That's so much fun. Okay. And he came from a long line of musicians and composers. So I think he was like a 5th generation musician, something like that. But all of his uncles and stuff were super involved in music. And he had 2 posts, 2 jobs. And his first post is he worked for a prince. So as a young gentleman, he learned how to play music, and then he got to work for this prince. He composed all sorts of amazing music. And then he ended up getting this gig at a church, and it was at St. Thomas in Leipzig, and he worked there for 27 years. 27 years. And he was a very religious man. He ended up, over the course of 2 wives, he ended up having 20 children, which is crazy. Like, I'm sure the Bach family reunion's super crazy. And he wrote 2 very important keyboard collections. He had one that's called the Well-Tempered Clavier, which is the first piano book that plays in all 12 keys. And the second one's called the Notebook of Anna Magdalena, which he wrote for his second wife. Did he have 23 children? You might be right, Alex. You might be right. It might also be possible that maybe 3 kids didn't survive till adulthood. So it's possible that the number is a little squishy depending on how you think about it. And then right next to me, over here, is a picture of one of the organs that Bach actually played, because these things are still sitting around. So we're going to check out something that he wrote for the prince, or wrote while he was working for the prince. And this is called the Brandenburg Concerto. Okay. And it's a group. So it's a solo group for flute, violin, and harpsichord. And, it's just super fun to listen to. So here we go. I want to point out that Bach was really the master of melodies. And so Bach was the master of being able to write 3 and 4 melodies that would all interact with each other. Something that's called counterpoint. And he was really the one who figured out the rules for. There's actually rules for, like, when you're writing notes, this one goes up and this one goes down. And Now there's 3 solo instruments, and then there's like some background instruments as well. You know, so here we have a flute, but it's a wooden flute. It plays very similarly to the modern flute, but it doesn't have some of the keycaps and stuff. We have a little bit better technology than what they had access to back in the 1700s. And notice it's like a never-ending song. It just keeps on going. Of course, there in the middle, we have the harpsichord. And Bach really is a lot of fun to play. So we're going to check out something. Oh, we're not going to do that. We're going to check out something from one of his organ playings. Now, what Bach used to do is he would go and visit, especially when he was a young man, he would go and visit different churches. And they would hire him to play the pipe organ. So this week for church, we have this gentleman, and he became famous all throughout Germany because he would just like shred on the pipe organ. And what he specialized in is he would take like a hymn, like a song that they would sing in church, and then he could improvise on it, and he could make up melodies that would work along with that hymn. It was kind of like the version of a Baroque mashup. And so he'd be playing this hymn, and he would be doing other things and all sorts of other stuff, and like people would lose their mind. Alora, was it 20 kids? Yeah, so 7 children with his first wife, and then 13 with his second wife. And there might have been some that didn't make it to adulthood, but that's the way it works. That's the way history goes. So, and he would make these up on the spot. He would like compose them out of his head. He would just sit there like, okay, I'm going to sit down at the pipe organ, and he would work it out. And so oftentimes if somebody really liked a particular one, be like, whoa, Bach, like that was a really good one today. He would then go, oh, okay, that's a good idea. And he would kind of remember what he did, and then he would go home and write it down. And one of his specialties was something called a fugue. Okay. Now this is an imitative thing. I don't know if you guys remember imitation means. We checked that out with Ave Maria. Ave Maria. And that's a little tiny short melody which he would imitate. Bach would take these huge long melodies, and he would hear him play it once with his right hand, and then he would play it once with his left hand, and then because he was on a pipe organ, he could also play it with his feet because there's a keyboard down on the feet, and he was able to write these melodies in a way where you could have 3-4 melodies happening at the same time. And this is what a fugue is. Written 1705 for pipe organ. And this would be considered sacred music because it was for the church. So we're going to check out, this is called Fugue in G minor. This is our first melody. And then in a second, he's going to play it another time. Go. There's the second one. But he's playing another melody on top of it. Wait for it. I think the third one's about to come in. Now. Here's the third one. And so these other ones, he's like composing new melodies on top of it. Here comes the fourth one. So now he's playing that melody down on the bottom. These 3 other ones are twinkling up on top. And this guy has to process all this in his head. And I think that here's the bass. There we go. It's pretty amazing. It's like watching an octopus. It's like watching an octopus figure this out. This is one person creating all this sound, keeping track of all the melodies. And of course, Bach would have done this on the fly, made it up on the spot, which is pretty amazing. All right. That's it for Bach. We're going to check out one more composer. We have Antonio Vivaldi, born in, well, let's see, 1678, died in 1741. Pretty close to 1750, wouldn't you think? And he was an Italian composer. He's also known as a Red Priest because of his hair. Look at this guy. Man, he's got this flowing hair and he's hanging out with his violin. He worked at an all-girls school. Yeah, what's up, Michael? Was that a hand raise?
This was also the same person who has made songs of the four seasons of.
Yep, we're going to check out Four Seasons today. And what's really cool is he was teaching in Venice. Does anyone know what Venice is famous for? It has streets of water. You got it, Michael.
Yeah,
so
water.
He taught at a school called the Ospital in Venice, and it was an all-girls school. And so all the music that he composed, Vivaldi, it was mostly played by young women, probably between the ages of like 10 and 18. This is like an all-girls middle school, high school sort of a thing. So we're going to check out a version of the Four Seasons, or La Primavera, because it's in Italian. No, La Primavera is not just a type of pasta.
That sounds like pasta.
Yeah,
and I want to eat it.
It's spring. It means spring, and it's a composition for, it's actually double violin solo, and it's based on a poem. So I'm going to read you guys the poem really quick. Okay, the poem goes like this. It is springtime upon us. Birds celebrate her return with festive song. The murmuring streams are softly caressed by the breezes. Thunderstorms, those heralds of spring, forecasting their dark mantle over the heaven. And what Vivaldi did is he actually made each of these moments happen within the music. So there's a springtime thing, there's a bird thing. By the way, the birds are played by solo violins, and he wrote it so they sound like birds. It's really cool. And then there's murmuring streams. And then there's thunderstorms and lightning, and it's pretty exciting stuff. So we're going to get this song going here. Here we go. You guys probably... There it is. Vivaldi. Springtime is upon us. And then up and coming is his imitation of birds. Here it is. Two violins chirping like birds. Back to the main melody, and then we have the murmuring streams. And the breezes.
It's not that easy. What?
Nice and breezy.
It really can help.
And then it's transitions to minor, a little bit sadder of a version. Thunderstorm. Lightning. That's pretty cool, huh? So that would be an example of a violin virtuoso. Anyone know what a virtuoso is off the top of their head?
I'm guessing something to do with virtuous.
Virtuous. That's
Virtual.
I have
virtual.
no idea, but that song was amazing.
It's kind of cool,
Yeah,
huh?
that song was amazing.
Yeah, I think I've heard it before. I just don't know.
Anyone know what a
Lots of
virtuoso
dialects.
is?
One of the most used things.
Yeah, so check this out. Okay, a virtuoso is somebody that is so good at their instrument, meaning that they've maybe practiced 10,000 hours. Maybe they put their 20,000 hours in. Back then, they didn't have TVs. They had nothing to do but sit around and practice violin, apparently. I mean, there's just great playing. Great playing in here. We just missed a little solo. But, yeah, they would just, like, have these shredding players, and then they would travel around, and they got to be, like, you know, Baroque musical stars. And actually, it's the Baroque era that we really start to see these really, really, really amazing musicians who weren't composers. They were just players, and they would just play all the time. And sometimes they were composers as well. And that kind of finishes out the Baroque, guys. And it's 10:01. Sorry for holding you over 1 minute. I'll see you guys on Thursday, okay? Everyone practice hard. And we are going to be doing breakout rooms again on Thursday. So be prepared. Cool, guys. Get out of here.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Julian, tell your sister you have to learn. Have a good day, Leah.